The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the dusty main street of Willow Creek, as Annabeth Sinclair stepped down from the stagecoach, her legs stiff from the 3-day journey. The year was 1878, and the promise of a new life stretched before her like the vast Wyoming territory itself, wild, uncertain, and filled with possibility. Annabeth clutched the wrinkled letter in her gloved hand, the paper worn from countless readings during her journey from Boston. The words were committed to memory, an offer of marriage from Charles Holloway, a man she knew only through 6 months of correspondence, initiated through a matrimonial advertisement in the Eastern paper. "Is this your first time out west, miss?" The driver handed down her trunk, weathered hands steady despite his advanced years. "Yes," Annabeth replied, brushing dust from her navy traveling dress. At 22, she had left behind everything familiar, her position as a schoolteacher, the empty house she'd inhabited since her parents' passing, and the stifling expectations of Boston society. "I'm to meet my intended." The driver gave her an appraising look. "Well, best of luck to you, miss. Willow Creek's small, but decent enough for these parts." Annabeth thanked him and surveyed the town. A single main street lined with wooden buildings, a general store, a saloon whose raucous piano music spilled into the street, a small church, and what appeared to be a hotel at the far end. Nothing like Boston, but somehow exactly as she'd imagined the frontier would be. She made her way toward the hotel, trunk in tow, when a commotion from the saloon caught her attention. 2 men burst through the batwing doors, locked in a struggle that sent them tumbling into the dusty street. Annabeth froze as onlookers gathered, some cheering, others simply watching with mild interest, as if brawls were merely afternoon entertainment. The larger man had pinned the other, his fist raised. "You cheated me, Wilson. Nobody cheats Buchanan and lives to brag about it." Before the blow could land, a commanding voice cut through the din. "That's enough!" A tall figure emerged from the crowd, moving with the easy confidence of a man accustomed to being obeyed. His face was partially shadowed by the brim of his hat, but Annabeth could see the determined set of his jaw, the intensity in his eyes as he stepped between the brawlers. "Buchanan, you've had enough whiskey to drown a horse. Go sleep it off." His voice was deep, resonant with authority. "Wilson, whatever you did, fix it or leave town by morning." Remarkably, both men backed down, muttering curses but retreating in opposite directions. The crowd dispersed, disappointed at the anticlimactic resolution. The peacemaker turned, and Annabeth found herself staring into the most piercing blue eyes she'd ever encountered. His face was tanned from the sun, with lines at the corners of his eyes that suggested he smiled often, though he wasn't smiling now. He wore the practical attire of a working man, denim trousers, a chambray shirt open at the collar, and a well-worn leather vest. A star-shaped badge glinted on his chest. "Sheriff Quinn Everett," he introduced himself, tipping his hat. "Welcome to Willow Creek. You look a bit lost, miss." "Sinclair." Annabeth Sinclair. She adjusted her grip on her trunk, suddenly aware of how out of place she must appear. "I've just arrived from Boston." His eyebrows rose slightly. "Boston's a long way. You have family here?" "No, She hesitated, then decided on honesty. "I'm here to meet my intended, Mr. Charles Holloway. Perhaps you know him." Something flickered across the sheriff's face, surprise, followed quickly by what seemed like concern. "Holloway?" He repeated the name slowly. "You'd better come with me to my office, Miss Sinclair. We should talk." A knot of apprehension formed in Annabeth's stomach. "Is something wrong?" Sheriff Everett's expression softened. "Let me carry that for you." He took her trunk effortlessly. "It's not my place to deliver bad news on the street. The office is just down the way." The sheriff's office was a modest building, with a small jail attached to the rear. Inside, it was unexpectedly orderly, with wanted posters neatly tacked to one wall, a desk piled with papers, and a pot-bellied stove in the corner. He set her trunk down and gestured to a wooden chair. "Please, sit." He removed his hat, revealing thick dark hair with a touch of silver at the temples. He was older than she'd first thought, perhaps in his early 30s, but carried himself with the strength and vitality of youth. Annabeth perched on the edge of the chair, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Sheriff Everett, you're frightening me." What's happened to Mr. Holloway?" He sighed, leaning against his desk. "Miss Sinclair, I regret to tell you that Charles Holloway died 3 weeks ago." Pneumonia took him quickly. The words hung in the air between them. Annabeth felt strangely numb, mourning not so much the man whom she'd never met, but the future she'd planned, the certainty she'd clung to during her journey west. "I see," she finally managed. I don't know what to do now." "Did you have any other correspondence? Family that might take you in?" She shook her head. "My parents passed 2 years ago. I sold everything to come here." The reality of her situation crashed over her. She was alone in a strange town, with limited funds and no connections. "I suppose I'll need to find work and accommodations until I can decide what to do next." Sheriff Everett studied her for a long moment. "Holloway owned the Mercantile. Good business, but he ran it alone. No family to speak of." He paused. "The town council's looking for someone to take it over temporarily. You wouldn't happen to have any experience with figures and inventory?" Annabeth straightened. "I was a school teacher in Boston. I'm quite proficient with mathematics and record keeping. Then perhaps this is fortunate timing, after a fashion." He crossed his arms. "The store comes with living quarters above. It would give you a roof and employment while you find your footing." "You would trust a stranger with a business?" His mouth quirked into a half smile. "Miss Sinclair, I've spent 15 years reading people. You don't strike me as the type to abscond with the cash box." He nodded toward her trunk. "Besides, anyone who brings that much luggage isn't planning to run anywhere fast." For the first time since arriving, Annabeth felt a small spark of hope. "I would be most grateful for the opportunity, Sheriff." "Quinn," he corrected. "If you're staying in Willow Creek, we don't stand much on ceremony."